Welcome to Inception special podcast. And today I have a wonderful guest. I'm not going to say too much because he's done so much for me in connecting me to others. And I personally think, and it's just my opinion, that he doesn't get enough. People don't realize how much he works and how hard he works for other people. And he inspired me tremendously. And really, I've got to say, it is through him that, and another incident with E.T., that the podcasts were created, Inception was created, with a conversation me and you had that day when I first invited you on. So he's part of the inspiration for this podcast. So I'm really honored to have him on the show. So Miguel, I have a little bio of you. You started off as a forestry, horticultural and landscaping, in the field of sustainability, and for a decade as an author and campaigner of renewable energy. Following all this work, you got into a range of topics and research, including consciousness, spirituality, ET contact, cults, wisdom, art, and creativity. His work, and I can tell you from my own personal experience with him, he goes directly to the people involved, and it gives him the most insight and the multidimensional data he needs to help him understand the subjects from inside. And I was really grateful to be a subject. Now, that was a mouthful. That was an absolute mouthful for me. And I got through it. So now I'm going to relax and say, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. Right. So what we're going to do, we're just going to start at the beginning, sweetie. Where did your amazing journey begin? Where did it begin?
In the living room of my Auntie Joan, when I was 3 years old. We'd just come over from Rhodesia, where I was born, which is now Zimbabwe. And we were staying with my favorite auntie, my Auntie Joan, when we first got to England. And I remember one day by myself in the living room, and suddenly, that feeling of being observed, being watched.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it, and everybody's experienced it. And, just naturally you'll turn around, right? It's that feeling of someone just walked into the room. And I turned around and there's nothing. But there's nothing, but this presence absolutely filled the room. And my response was, it's one of those things that I almost wish I could go back and re-experience it, because you wonder after all these years, is your memory kind of up to snuff? But the feeling, the memory has never changed. Mm-hmm. I felt the presence. I turned to look. There was nothing visible, but I knew that it was there, and I knew that it knew that I knew it was there.
Yeah.
Right? And then I understood from one moment to the next that reality is multidimensional, that there are all these levels and layers of reality that are all kind of available to each other, but not necessarily perceptible by the physical senses. Mm-hmm. So you can't necessarily see it or smell it or taste it or hear it, but your body, everything in you, your awareness is aware of it, and you're kind of aware of awareness. And so years go by, and I realized that, people aren't talking about these kind of experiences around me. This is not normal, in other words. But, in school, you start to hear about religion and people talking about, this invisible, all-powerful being that you have to worship. You have to get on your knees. Get on your knees. And all this I'm trying to put together as a child. I'd spoken to nobody about my experience. I had none of that influence in my life. no kind of spirituality around me. My parents were not religious in any overt sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of left to try and figure this out. But in a culture that doesn't operate that way,
Absolutely.
it's just either it's totally material,
yeah,
or it's God. And it was a long time, I would say my late teens, mid to late teens, before I started to encounter alternative fringe ideas, let's say, even though I was given a book on UFOs when I was about 7.
Yeah.
And so that was huge. And because I was given that book at an early age by my dad, who was also giving me books on engineering and mathematics and so on and so forth, very sort of masculine disciplines as such, I just took it for granted that this existed and was part of our reality just as much as were cars and steam engines and rockets and whatever. But this, I guess the next major, and I've talked about this on a lot of shows, so, a lot of people will have heard this. So the short version is that in successive years, I had a couple of close encounters with angels, one in a near-death experience and the other in a tent. I crawled in there to get some sleep, but it was so small for my height that I had to crawl in on my belly, turn over and sit up to take my boots off. And as I sat up to take my boots off, there's this angel kneeling, scrunched down at the entrance of the tent.
Wow.
And I spent what felt like, I don't know, you know how in those kind of experience, time behaves slightly differently. It felt like a long time, but I'm sure it was like this, but my eyes were scanning all of it, taking it all in with no fear or excitement. It was very neutral. It's almost, I don't know, if you're in an art gallery, you're going to take it all in and try and deal with the parts and the whole. And so I was looking at its hair and its skin, which was kind of, it's like it was a light bulb. If you look at a light bulb and you can see the light coming through it.
Yes.
And, it was perfectly androgynous. That more than anything else was the thing that fascinated me. That it was like purely 50-50.
Wow.
Masculine, feminine features. You could see, if you tried, you could see the masculine. If you tried, you could see the feminine, but you were experiencing pure androgyny.
Wow.
And that was the thing that blew my mind more than anything. And the wings, I remember it was like a classic tent, and its wings were pushing up the sides of the tent.
Gosh, wow.
So it was having, not that I thought about this at the time, but it was having a material effect on the 3D space. And then as I kind of finished taking all this in, then the download started, so-called. It was just like if you imagine a tube of data, it was like a fire hose, though. It was like if you're thirsty, you're not going to drink from a fire hose, right? You can't take it in. You can't absorb it or do anything with it. And it was so intense, and it was getting more and more intense, that in my mind, I said, in fact, I've skipped a bit. I started, as I was looking at it, the thing that initiated the download was, as I was looking at it, I was starting to hear a voice in my head as such. I was starting to hear something, but I was aware that I wasn't really hearing it. And so I looked at his mouth, and it was barely moving. And I realized, this is telepathy. And as soon as I thought the word telepathy, that is when the floodgate opened. And at a certain point, when it was totally overwhelming and useless in terms of being able to do anything with the data, I just said in my mind, whoa, just slow down, just give me something, anything that I can understand.
Yeah.
And what I got was absolutely banal, but obviously I've thought a lot about it over the years. And what it said was 7 words: it's all going to work out.
Wow.
That's what I got. And, you know,
at the time, ambiguous, what's going to work out, never mind the actual reality shattering experience.
Yeah.
I mean, God. And how old were you at this time?
That was, I think, the summer of 93. So I was turning 20.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Do go on.
Yeah. And that's the last thing I remember. Whether I just, passed out, don't know. But, I didn't know anyone I could talk to about this stuff.
Yeah.
And then a year later, I had a near-death experience, a car, what should have been a head-on collision.
Yeah.
I mean, the car was on top of us.
Yeah.
On top of us at night in the rain. And this car was overtaking. It was a BMW because I remember the grille.
Yeah.
And, if it was going to be anybody, it would be a goddamn BMW driver.
It would be.
It's true. They are the worst. Anyway.
Don't send the hate mail, guys, if you've got a BMW.
That's just raw data. That's just, years of experience on the road. Anyway, but that BMW driver initiated one of the most important experiences of my life, which was, everything goes white. And I think it's the white of the beams, the headlamps. It's right. It's bumper to bumper.
Yeah.
At collectively, I don't know, somewhere between 100 and 120 miles an hour. We're doing about 60. It's doing about 60. So it should have been game over for everybody concerned. And what happened was everything just went white. And then I became aware of my awareness of the whiteness, and aware that I had no body.
Yeah.
And I had that sense of looking down, and there was nothing. I was like a pinpoint of consciousness in this whiteness. And then ahead of me, at a distance that's really hard to gauge with nothing else there.
Yeah.
Felt like maybe it was 20, 30 feet ahead and up in the air above me kind of thing, was an angel with the wings fully spread.
Wow.
And it was just, pure magnificence. It was just absolutely awe-inspiring. And I had that feeling of my jaw just hanging open.
Yeah.
And then that lasted a few seconds in that kind of space. And then I kind of I started to hear sound, but it was like running backwards, like, and suddenly, I was kind of back in my body. And it was super weird when you have been out of body. And anybody watching this who's ever been out of body, I would be fascinated to hear from them, but I would think that this would be probably universal. That it's quite weird when you come back into your body. And I just had this feeling of having to relearn how to operate this machine. That my consciousness is the driver at the controls. And it's got to remember how this whole crazy structure functions. And then, there was no car, and my friends up front, I was in the back seat, my friends up front were saying nothing about angels again. So I said nothing. And I could talk about angelic experiences like for an hour, because there were more. When I was doing Reiki, they would show up. And my Reiki teacher could see them as well. But didn't say anything because I didn't say anything. But at the point at which I said, I was working on her back, doing my sort of final run through, so she could see, did it stick? Did I understand what she taught me? And I remember I was on the second position on her back, and suddenly I see this. I've got my eyes shut, but I see this white shape of like a head, and then this lateral light coming out of it and you just know what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
You know this is
it's an innate,
angelic
natural,
being.
innate knowing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I see it more taking form, and it's very slim. I mean, it doesn't look built like it's structured like an angel, but not featured that way. It's just light taking this form.
Is it what? I mean, I'm just fascinated. I don't even want to interrupt you. I'm just blown away here. But was it the same angel all the way through? Could you tell, or did you not know?
No idea. No, okay. I have no idea if the first one was the same as the second one, was the same as the third one, or the fourth, fifth, or sixth. I mean, I don't know.
Did you get a name or?
You know, after. So every time I would give a treatment to somebody, they would show up, because at this, because it happened in my Reiki 1 training, I decided that I would simply welcome them. At the start of a healing, when you're doing the symbols, before putting my hands on, I would take a second to simply say, I welcome, all beings of love and light, whatever, to assist in the healing today. And then universally, as my eyes were shut and I would, put my hands in the first position on their head, I would get this white light appear, and this sense of a being, I don't even know what to call it. I don't know if being is even the right word. It's just this sort of conscious, loving, healing energy.
Yeah.
And I was doing a session on my partner, and I decided to get into it. This being was so present that I started to really check in with it, and I asked it its name, and I got Samuel, like, immediately. And I thought, Samuel, Angel Samuel. Okay. And I just stuck that away. And basically I spent the next 45 minutes having a back and forth with this being, whether or not it was all in my imagination, nobody will ever know, but it didn't feel like it. It felt absolutely as real as, I talk to my cat every day, all the time, but it was not that same feeling.
No, I always say, funny thing is, I was talking to someone last night on a Zoom, and they were sharing an experience, and they said this similar to what you said. And I don't know. And I said, listen, if you're experiencing something, whatever it is, and you've got these energies and emotions, and if it's definitely this powerful love, and it can't be your imagination, it is a physical, emotional experience. It's a truth, because if I experience tapping the table, I've experienced it. I've also experienced other dimensional beings, and my God, it's more real than tapping that table. So, when I hear people say, I don't know if it was my imagination, if you try and go into your imagination, you could never power up the emotional, the vibrational completeness of that experience in your imagination. So, no, I don't think it was.
Yeah, I've tried. I've flirted a lot with the power of imagination
I've tried
in the course of my life, and I've tried calling in angels when I'm not healing, and I don't get that same thing. It's only when I'm healing. Only. I can't, they won't show up just to hang out.
Wonderful. But that goes to show that's your validation. And I've tried even on ET experiences and other ones, and I've tried to get back in, and I may pick up a bit, but it's nothing like the experience. So I would say that's not imagination. So where do we go after? I know we've got that. I'm trying to unpack in an hour your lifetime, which is absolutely fascinating. So where and when did you get into writing and books and ET and consciousness and everything under the paranormal? When did that come in? Was it after so many encounters, contact with these angels?
No, that happened when I'd finished the trilogy. I'd done Being with the Beings, and I think that I did because I was living in a different place. So it was a year or 2 years maybe after that I had those experiences.
But you've done Being with the Beings. You've done that by then. Could you explain for the audience a synopsis of what that was about, that writing was about, the book?
Well, in short, I did 3 books that were around the whole UFO ET subject.
Yeah.
And the first was Meet the Hybrids, that I did with Barbara Lamb. And in that, it really kind of rewrote my sense of the subject.
Yeah.
Because before that, it's all about lights in the sky and, it's all the masculine side of things.
Yeah.
It's, tech and craft and
nuts and bolts,
physical traces, and it's all very sort of grounded and masculine. But then you talk to the hybrids, and their whole deal was their spiritual trip.
Yeah.
And it was all about consciousness and trying to handle the human experience.
Yes.
How do you first of all handle having this inner understanding that you are something else, you're part of something else, you've only got one foot here. How do you handle that firstly in your own mind, in your community, in your family, in relationships? How do you navigate all of that? And then how do you take this inner sense of mission and realize it in a world that is profoundly cynical? It's profoundly cynical here.
Absolutely, yes.
And I guess, one of the biggest takeaways from it was that, I realized that all my life I'd had this feeling that I cannot be this.
No.
I had this feeling. Yeah. I'm not one of those people who says, I'm actually, I'm in a human form, but I'm actually a 14th dimensional Arcturian or whatever. I'm not one of those people. I don't have a sense of a point of origin or a tribe or
I'm with you.
Any of that. Just a feeling that I'm not a joiner. I don't join groups of any kind. I might dabble. I might step in and explore and see what's here and how does this community function. So there is that kind of, ever the sociologist sort of thing without ever pinning my colors to any particular mast.
I'm with you.
Right?
I mean, a lot of people say, we label it. I use multiple labels, but, I often go around still to this day going, who the fuck am I? What am I? And even though I have consciousness or I am dimensional, I'm Christ, all the labels that humans, but I sometimes sit there and especially when I'm in sort of that space of the void and I go, but I'm no thing. There is no thing. And sometimes I go, well, I'm a no thing. But even that, because the mind, I think, it causes, cognitive dissonance. The mind can't go there. So I understand what you're saying. And so when I say I'm conscious having a human experience, it's not really the expression of my true self. It's all I've got at the moment. I can't.
That's it.
Yeah, I can't.
That's exactly it. Yeah. This is you work with what you've got, right? If you are learning Chinese on week 1, you're not going to know a lot. You work with what you have. You can say to your friends, I learned Ni Hao today and Wo Bu Chi La Di and whatever.
Next week is a bit more. I've been so many things. I thought the first thing was I was a soul. And then I was a child of God. And then the more that my consciousness expanded through the self-realization, and then I was, I'm a child of God, but I'm consciousness. And then it went, I'm multidimensional. So I kept piling the label and you go on and it's about the journey. And the more that you look at I don't even like the word mission, You know you're not from here. You know you're not the body. And it's a continuation. So I so resonate with what you're saying. And it was only a couple of days ago, I just sat down and went, I'm just no thing. Look, I'm just call myself, hi, I'm no thing. Who are you? Because I said, it's a joke. But it's a perpetual journey of exploration and discovery of the self. So I say, okay, I get over it, and then I start using my terminologies. I'm consciousness, but I so resonate with that. But on that, when you did meet the hybrids, now with also with your experiences leading up to writing the trilogy, meeting these beings and other conscious beings, that must have shifted your reality again. It must have shattered it even more. Never mind angels. Because there were other people similar to you. Now that you were connecting with, am I correct? You are now, in the past we had no one to talk to, but now you had others to talk to that resonated and you could resonate with. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it was different, minute to minute, day to day, hour to hour, week to week, and now year to year. I mean, it's, but that's, as you were suggesting, we're permanently in flux.
Yes.
And I think that is one of the only truths that I am confident of, that the only constant is change.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
So, in doing that work, I realized that the subject of ufology was as like stuck in the 50s or something. And I thought, well, I'll do a book that tries to bring it up to date and say, what have we learned so far? So then I did We Are the Disclosure. I interviewed like a couple of dozen people, 4 of whom have already passed. The late, great Stanton Friedman, Jim Mars, Clifford Stone, and Rosemary Ellen Guiley. They all passed. And Cynthia Crawford from Meet the Hybrids. So 5 of them have already gone, but this is the importance of recording this stuff and pulling it together. And then I was taking my first break since I started Meet the Hybrids, because I went straight from that to We Are the Disclosure. And I originally did We Are the Disclosure in 2 parts. And so I'd published part 1 and I just ordered the bound proof of part 2. And I thought, great, I've got 4 days till the proof gets here. So I'm just going to chill. I can put all this aside finally. And I lay down on the couch, and honestly, within, I couldn't put a figure on it, but I reckon it was less than a minute, 2 minutes at the very most. I suddenly, out of nowhere, it's like this data readout. I saw Being with the Beings, a book about people who have had long ongoing contact with the beings. And then I saw a list of names and list of questions. The questions and the names and the names and the questions. And it was like a data readout, just and so it didn't feel like it just felt like it was dropped in there. So I didn't even get 1 minute's break. And then I thought, well, okay, at that point, I'd got to some understanding of, how some of these crazy metaphysical things work. And I thought, well, actually, I want to know the answers to these questions. What is it like to connect with the beings on an ongoing basis? How do you handle it? What does it mean to you? How has it changed you? And so I rustled up the people on the list, and I reached out to some other people in the community, and I asked them, who they suggested, and they gave me the same names. So, okay, fine. So I reached out to them. They said, yes, boom. I got the 9, and 3 of them were channelers. And so all 3 of them did channeling. So I interviewed the channel, and then I interviewed the beings. And all of that stuff's in there, and some of it is absolutely stone mental. It is crazy. So it was wild. It really was.
Where was your headspace? You've done all this and you've done the extra bit from the last download. Where was your headspace then? I mean, you know, as I said, it's you've gone through the angel period, and then you come into your book writing. I've got to ask up to here before we go any further. I found through my lifetime, every time I had a contact experience, and I can only look back in hindsight, which is a bitch. You don't sort of see it at the time, but I do now, but I didn't then. Each time there was a profound contact with a being, afterwards it was like I shifted, my reality shifted, my art shifted to a new genre. I mean, you know, they shifted me once. I was doing all the sacred geometry, 3-dimensional. I was doing drawing. I mean, it was just, you know, wild. 24/7, just nonstop, like a crazy person that didn't need to do anything else. I suppose you get that when you write. And then you'd have another, and then it will be another, and then another one. Then, I mean, then it was like, I don't know how long ago it was. I had a massive experience, and then all the recent ET canvases came out of me, and then another one, and then it was Egyptian. And so what I'm saying is, can you now look back, or are you aware that each time that you had, maybe just with the angels, I don't know, but other experiences, that your reality shifted, or you could say your human career shifted, and it just inspired you and gave you more, I don't know what word I'm looking for, because I can't even explain what goes on in my head as I move through this roller coaster. But did you find that after each contact, something else? There we are. You're not resting. Here's another job, and off we go again.
Yeah, I think that by the time Being with the Beings was done, I felt that I was done, because I'd taken it to its logical conclusion, which was, that's the closest I could get. I have no phone numbers or email addresses for any beings. It's not like I can say, let's just sit on Zoom, right? So I got up to the threshold and, you know, crossed it in the sense of at least speaking to them through channels.
Yeah.
And at that point, you thought, well, there's nowhere else I can go.
No, that's it now. I'm done.
And after that, I got into glass making, and I ended up doing 3D sculptures with beings in them.
Yeah.
The face of a being that I was sent by, it was made by Cynthia Crawford. It was bought by Juju, who's in all those books, and she sent it to me. And so I cast its face, and then would put that cast in a form, and then I'd basically design with stringers and frit around it, and then basically fire it in the glass kiln, and then create these pyramid-shaped things with these beings' faces that are cool. And I, like everything else, I just obsessed.
Yes.
Obsessed. It's all I did.
Yes.
And like, you know, it started with just I got a vision of the
creative idea, as if we just thought of it, as if a creative idea, but then it turns into an obsession.
It's like it just pops into being from one moment to the next. I think I was actually in the glass place at the time, because I started off just doing stained glass, you know, just copper foiling. And then I immediately started making 3D stuff. And then I got this vision of a being's face in glass, and I thought, how the hell would you do that? So basically I had to reverse engineer it and talk to specialists and work it out bit by bit. And then you know, it's very expensive business, but you know, just doing lots of test firings and messing around, and eventually I found the method, and then you refine it, you know. And then prior to that, I got absolutely obsessed with modular synths, and that's been something that's kind of come back into my life. And I mean, they're difficult to kind of show, but you can put a link to my YouTube channel and people can.
When this podcast comes out, you'll send me all the links. I'll put them up with it, and I'm aware of that because we had a little chat before, and you were working on some. Just explain to the audience briefly what that is. What you just spoke about, the modular sync.
Well, I don't know if I can. If people can see
Keep going in the forest. Yeah, we can see it. Yeah, we got it.
Yeah. Yes. So it's basically a bunch of modules, and these are all different pieces of a synthesizer, and they all do very different jobs. And there's thousands upon thousands of modules. I could talk about. You've got to stop me because I could talk about this.
You. You know I'm going to stop you. You know I am.
But essentially, when I got involved in this, I found something that I found absolutely mystifying and mysterious, and I got totally hooked. And that's all I did. And then I started taking light language.
Obsessed, shall we say?
Yeah, I started getting taking light language from Jacqueline Smith, who's in 2 of my books, and Vanessa Lamort, who's in my books, and this lady Wendy Wolf, who has a show, Languages of Lights. I don't know if the channel's still going, but she sings light language. So I would take light language from these ladies and I would set it to music, and then find some video. And then, recently I've just got completely hooked again on that. And in between all of that, I did 2 more books, one on wisdom. I interviewed again a couple of dozen extraordinary people, some from my work in environment and sustainability, that they happen to work on all kinds of different things, peace, social justice, sustainability, human rights, disarmament, all these kinds of things. And so I did that book and dived into what wisdom is. And that was transformative in, people throw around the word wisdom a lot, but and I've found it recently in a academic paper that I've been reading for my next book. And in that, people generally, there's a very kind of, it's incredibly important to define your terms in science, in legal profession, whatever, to make sure that people absolutely understand what you mean by what you say, because the stakes can be pretty high. I found the word wisdom in there, and I thought, well, there's no definition of wisdom in that paper. And having gone through the process of studying it, my sense of wisdom is that it's fundamentally loving. It's kind of loving intelligence, in that you can be, it's not just piling up experience. Someone who's really experienced could be an experienced rapist. We would not say that as a wise person.
No.
We could find, it's not intelligence, because you can find a highly intelligent serial killer, or Wall Street trader, or asset stripper. We don't look at those people. We see the damage and the destruction that they do. We don't look at them and see the wisdom in them, right? So it's not intelligence. It's not experience. It's not even learning from experience. It has got to be loving and benevolent. If it does not have loving, benevolence, care, compassion, reciprocity, generosity, if it does not have these things, it is not wisdom to me.
I love that statement. That's beautiful. That so resonates with me.
And I feel quite strongly about it, as you can probably tell. And
yes, I can tell. And I think, that for me, what I am aware of you is I can just see that in you. And I'm not here to, embarrass you in any way, but however, I'm fully aware of how you help other people on their obsession, should I say. And we are going to bring in a mutual friend here. Shout out to Faye Vale. Love you, Faye. And, how, when she contacted you, or you contacted her, and she was like on her obsession, and she, obviously just drawing and and it was just her life was. And then you went to see her, and she's not the only one that you really inspired and supported, like a guardian angel, I gotta say it, because she's told me, and you changed her life. And I know there's many other beings that you've helped as well in book publishing and guidance and introductions. Do you think, how come, no, not do you think, I'm trying to find the right question here. Your experiences with the angelic realms, or Samuel, and the downloads that are coming through, would you say, or not, that you are obviously that conscious being yourself? However, your interaction with these loving, wise, empathic, grateful, kind, revered beings expanded your own inner elements of these areas. I can't even find the right way to say this because it's so hard. And because your life path is in helping others. I'm going to say that. You may not say that, even though you've got your obsessions for yourself. But it has been about inspiring and sharing others, their stories, or just support them in their future. I'm going around the houses with this one, but it's so difficult. Does it resonate with you that these experiences that I spoke out before, after each one, something goes, but the underlying core of you is your part of your journey, whatever it is to help humanity in such a way as you do, because you did it to me. You with the ET inspired this podcast through the conversation. So I'm got to ask that question.
Well, I would like to think that all of us are born with innate goodness. Mm-hmm. And in the right conditions, that is encouraged and it flourishes. Mm-hmm. But I don't think planet Earth, particularly at this time, in our kind of late capitalist mode, mm-hmm. it's so driven by greed, mindless, pointless greed. Yeah. Greed for things that to me have no innate value. I mean, money has no innate value. No. It's a means of exchange, yes. Right? It's and for it to become an end in itself, rather than a means to an end, you know, that's part of our screw up. That we somehow, you know, as kind of primates, we have this thing around status mm-hmm. and our position in the group and this level of self-awareness mm-hmm. that we have, and at the same time we've had all our communities mm-hmm. stretched to breaking point mm-hmm. and fragmented by you know the same kind of dynamics of capitalism, which is kind of geography agnostic. It does not care about where it sets its feet as long as it can absolutely maximize its returns mm-hmm. through having a footprint in a given jurisdiction. Yeah. So it has no loyalty. No. And I mean, we could kind of deconstruct capitalism and its ills endlessly, but I think that the point is simple, that it's antagonistic, I think, mm-hmm. to love and compassion rather than fostering of love and compassion.
So would you say, again, I'm going to go back to the question, would you say that these contact experiences with these angelic beings and I mean, it's obviously from the get-go, they're in when you're healing, they were in when you're healing, but the information that came through to you and all of your obsessions, eventually each one led you to help another on their spiritual path. So would you, I mean, because why I'm asking is because I have a truth that, because of hindsight now, every contact experience I've had has pushed me, whether it was a voluntary work or whether it was to do this or whether it was, but it was assisting when I was counseling, when I was teaching it. And at the time, when you're in the identity, you think it's me. I'm doing this. I've been to university, and But then, obviously, hindsight, you can say, do you know what? Something happened. The synergies were correct when I had that experience that shifted me to. So it's like there's switching. I always say every so often they turn a switch. Yep, off we go. But it's for humanity. It's a service to yourself and a service to the collective. From the Homo sapien perspective, I'm saying. Would you say their influence was that great on you?
I think it's an excellent question, and I would love to know the answer. With any certainty, with any objectivity. I mean, that experience when I was 3, that set the tone for my entire life.
Yeah.
I understood that reality was not simply this dense material and materialistic existence, that there are aspects of being that are beyond it. And so I guess I was never hung up on material gain because I'd had that experience so young.
Yeah.
And, as a teenager, I'd had out-of-body experiences and that kind of thing, as well as the near-death thing and lucid dreams and all these kind of shifts. So really, I guess I wanted to solve the mystery of existence. What is this really?
Yeah.
What is this really? If there are all these different, and doing the E.T. books, the trilogy, that obviously expanded the list of theories.
Yeah.
Right, because everybody has their own, and it is crazy to me how many people have the Messiah complex and are absolutely willing to put their hand up and say, I'm the guy. I'm the man, woman, boy, child that figured it out, because the beings came to me and they tell me how it is, and everybody else is wrong.
Absolutely.
That the level of delusion and ego is bonkers. And one of the theories is that, well, we all come for experiences, and that's it. That's the only thing that is going on.
There's more than that. It's that and all of the above. That's all I say now. I really, over the last, I say months, weeks, due to experiences, it's like, oh, fuck that. I'm going to have to eat humble pie again. That was my truth. It's not them. But they're still my truths, but it's, like we said, it's in flux. It's continuous. And there is so much that I'm not even bothering to try to comprehend. So I always say, if someone says they know the answer, then I'd walk away, because I have no frigging idea what's going on. I know it's joyous each time it happens, and it's just amazing, and it's like, that's all I can do. And I smile a lot and I giggle a lot, and I sit on my own a lot just laughing. It's joy, but I cannot describe anymore. So I do, I do believe though myself that it was maybe, I don't know, maybe I agreed, whatever I agreed, I don't know anymore, but these beings around me, the inspiration, and how my path has shifted, and the knowledge that comes in that I never went to university for, it's just, it's, I can see there is a connection, like they've always been with me. They've always walked with me for my own personal experience. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I'm sure every other conscious being has their collection as well. But I just could see the amount of work that you do. And I hope to not make you feel uncomfortable with this, but you do, Miguel, you do it for others. And you make such a passionate difference in their life. And I've heard, once I've had a conversation with you, boom, and it happened with me. When I said, will you come on my other show? And we had a conversation, and I come off, and then I had an experience, and they confirmed what I was getting from you. And I went, okay, right, I'm going to start a podcast now. How do I do that? I have no idea. But I have to say it comes from you as well as them. I can't not deny that. So I'm seeing that in you. I know Faye sees that in you, and there are many, many others. You brought to the table. I mean, I, for one, could never understand the nuts and bolts. Way back in the day, I tried to approach ufology, and it was like they didn't want to know an experiencer. They weren't interested in what happened to my consciousness. My consciousness kept changing, and all I got was, oh, what sizes were it? What was it like inside the craft? I said, well, and I was bored with talking about it. That wasn't the objective. That wasn't why the experience happened. It was consciousness. I didn't know that at the time, but I knew that so I pulled away. I pulled away, and then obviously I had the realization later on. So you've been doing this for some time. I'm not going to stop. Before we close, I want to go back because something sort of come into me. Your new obsession now, when you spoke about recording the light codes, and then you're doing, like, you know, is it called synthetic tones and all? You did explain to me a couple of months ago about all these wires. And are you creating new frequency, or are you creating electronic, or we could call them artificial light codes through this work?
That is a great question. I mean, I do know that it is just super important that I not only create it but share it. That's why I started the YouTube channel. I already had one, and I've just gone back and I've begun to just add more every weekend, principally. You know, I just work 9 to 5, 5 days a week. Although the amount of work I'm doing on this new book, it just keeps shrinking down, and the amount I'm doing on music keeps expanding.
Yeah.
But, you know, you have to follow your joy. There is no, I mean, life is too short to not do the thing that is most important to you at any given time, if it's possible. And when I'm making this stuff, you know, you got a brief glimpse in this system. There's got to be something like 150 plus knobs and dozens of sliders and buttons and hundreds of jacks. And in all of this, tiny movements can change the dynamic, because it's all one system. It's like the body or an engine or something. When something is all fundamentally interconnected, one tiny change affects everything. And so you have to be incredibly good at listening, not just to the parts, but to the whole. So
I hear you.
You've got to sort of zoom in and out, and what that does for your consciousness. Anybody who does anything creative, especially with lots of moving parts, even if you're painting, you know, you've got to look at composition, color palette, you know, the pressure of stroke. I mean, there's so many pieces.
Yeah, but I'm trying to get somewhere with you, you see? And you knew when I asked you that question, is there something inside that you're creating something new from, like light codes, but in a synthetic vibrational form? Now, we hear of all, like, the hertz of this and the hertz of that, and this is like the basic, been going on for eons, forever. And we all know that as consciousness expands and communication expands, things change. We create new. We create a new. We can't, for a new era, we cannot create with the old. And this is where I'm going with you. And because you recorded all the light codes, I mean, I've experienced joy in the light codes, and I know there's vibration in the light codes, but you've gone really down the rabbit hole, and you're creating the sound. Now, is this sound that you're creating, I could put it another way to put the question, do you feel the influence is from consciousness, the other beings, that you're doing this to create something that our vibrational bodies, when we hear this, needs to hear?
I honestly have no way of knowing. I wish I could answer that question. I mean, I wish I could answer every question there is. I want to know it all. I really do. It's a bummer that that's not going to happen. But what I can tell you is that I will be doing something else somewhere else. And, any creative person has this. Yes. I'm convinced of that. I feel confident that you'll be doing whatever and you're called to it. It's, and you find yourself walking in, putting on the headphones, flipping on the power. And I honestly, I got this new phenomenal complex oscillator last night called the Further Generator by the Spanish company Endorphins. And all I did for, I don't even know how long, is just listen to this oscillator through a couple of really beautiful reverbs and finding all of the frequencies, the tones that are most absolutely pleasing. And then you listen to whether it's a sine wave, a square wave, a triangle wave, sawtooths, whatever it is, and you can have different you got two oscillators, so you can have, I could get really in the weeds here.
I know you can. I know it's your passion.
The point is that you do all this really close listening, and and it has a physical effect. You can feel the neurochemical shift when you hit it. You hit the sweet spot, and the sweet spot now in 5 minutes could be absolutely repellent. It could be just, it's all absolutely of the moment. It's what works for me right now. And I honestly think that is a rule to live by, that whether it's a relationship, a task, a meal, whatever it is, you kind of have to listen deep down into yourself, because there's always a voice in there, I think, that is telling you what is best for you at any given time.
And that's beautiful, but I've still got to jump back. You answered the question, and when I asked you, was it for something, and the way you expressed that with the passion and the energy coming off you, obviously, if you don't know yet, we all want to know the answers to everything, but that your tones that you're creating and how it affects the frequency of your own body. It's quite obvious if you go off and listen to certain hertz and meditation, the effect it can have on your own conscious frequency. So I would answer the question for you, because I'm Gloria, and say, you're doing a good job there. It's for somebody. It's for others, because why would you? We don't create for for me the creative when I paint, it's the same thing. I don't know why I'm painting half the time and what's coming out. It's channeled out. But then someone looks at it and they say, there's something about it. There's a frequency. Or we have some people like certain music. I'm a lover of classical music. And that works for me. Classical music, no words. So we're all but there's something about frequency that I've become fully aware of over the past few years. Because we are frequency energy beings, and we are oscillating at a certain frequency, that some frequencies can come in and it can expand consciousness, as well as, if you get the lower ones, it can introvert us in. So I just think that what you're doing, it's so intricate, so complex, and so amazing. It's just like light code. So that's just glorious, isn't it?
In fact, as you're speaking, I'm thinking, and I had this thought years ago, but never looked into it. I would almost guarantee that out there somewhere, someone's made a module that will give you a readout of the exact frequency that you're at. I mean, you can look at some of the dials and they will tell you, for example, one in particular goes from 20 hertz to 11,500 kilohertz. And so very occasionally something will on my sequencer, you can dial in raw values, raw pitch values, so you can actually dial in the exact frequency. So that might be something to mess around with.
I don't move over Beethoven. I'm telling you. But for me, I'm feeling it, and I did last time. Way back when we had the conversation, and you sent me some links of the tones that had come out. Ooh, and but then it wasn't the right time, the right place, whatever. But I definitely think so, Miguel. You've got something there, and you wait and see. But before
anybody listening to this that wants to do any kind of collaboration, sound wise, whatever wise, just let me know. They can get me through you. I can be found on Facebook. They can find me through my website or YouTube channel, but I'm always looking to collaborate with people, especially on sound projects, music projects. So the door's open.
I wanted you to sell yourself shamelessly there, and you just did. When the podcast comes out, Miguel will send me all the links and everything, and I'll put it out there. And yes, get in contact with him. I think it's wonderful. I've got to ask you now, do you have any idea? Are you still publishing, self-publishing people's books at the moment? Are you still doing the books, helping people to
I have just been too busy with my own projects since Facebook. That was the last one that I did. And actually, no, I did another one. I did a couple. I did one last year. Sheila Seppi's book on walk-ins.
Okay.
So did that one.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if it's not going to be too much work and it's the right project. I mean, when I saw Facebook, I just basically wanted to have my own copy of a book that I could flip through.
I had her on the show.
I could see it.
I had her on the Open Minds, my Open Mind show. It was out on Monday, and we went through the book. She had the book there, and some of the I mean, it was just, you just could feel it. I just loved it. I mean, so why I asked that question, because obviously when the podcast goes out, they're going to know that you help people publish their books. You may get inundated. How do you feel about that? Someone may contact you, so is it okay to contact you? And if you feel you can, or are you too busy at this point? I don't want to.
I'm kind of just submerged in working on a new book at the moment.
Your new book. That's fine.
But people can always check in with me, and there's other people I know that do it.
Yeah. There you go.
So I can always signpost people.
Yeah.
But it depends what it is, really. And it depends where people are at. I mean, if it's all about ego and narcissism, I've got no interest. No. If it's all about, messiah complexes and, I need to tell the world how it all works, I'm not interested.
No.
I'm interested in people who are humble, who have humility and love and something to offer that's just offered, that it isn't self-gratification, self-aggrandizement, because there's so much of that in the community. There's too much of it. I mean, it's a thing that a lot of people, I guess, have to go through, and it's a big test.
Yes.
Right? If something comes to you and points a finger at you and says, you are the chosen one, and we're going to give you the goods on how all this works, why wouldn't you want to scream that from the rooftops?
Well,
right?
Maybe for
it's not like I don't understand it. It's just that I have heard that too many times, I guess.
Yeah, it's their journey. I always say it's their journey. And none of my business what they do, as long as they don't bring it to me. It's definitely not my journey. I've met enough in my lifetime of these people, but it's just to say that I'd never want to be like that. I'd never. But it's their journey. So obviously, as if you are, as Miguel says, and you can always drop him a line. But however, he is busy. What is the name? Do you have a name for your next book?
No, I'm kind of keeping that one close to my chest at the moment. I'm about 8 interviews in, and I have some pretty interesting ones lined up. But I don't know the final form of it yet. Normally I do. I've got a pretty solid idea. I just need to find the people. Okay. I know the subject, I know my questions. But this time it's just innately, because of the subject matter, it just has an element of kind of feeling my way into it.
All right. Yeah, and I hear you.
It is fun. It is really interesting, but it's huge. It's a really big one. And so there's all these different elements to it. I could go to almost anybody. I could go to anybody on the planet and interview them for this book and ask them a set of questions. What does the word mean to you? And what's your experience of? And what is the role and value of in human experience? And I could ask those 3 questions to anyone. But depending on their expertise, their field, their life journey, they can pull on different experiences and perspectives for that.
I totally understand that, what you're saying. So I'm not going to ask any more about that book because you're not giving any more away, but that's okay. I would like to thank you for coming on to the podcast. And as I said, you were part of the inspiration. And until next time, Miguel, he will be on another podcast. I will get him on the show as well. Thank you very much. As for everyone watching, thank you so much, guys. Please like and subscribe Inception Podcast and Special, which you will find this podcast on the Forbidden Knowledge News Network. Until the next time I have a conversation with another amazing being, it's bye from me. Bye, everybody.